So, let's just dive straight into it. What we're going to talk about today is a case. We recently onboarded a supplement brand, and they were struggling with a couple of things. First and foremost, this is in particularly for they're looking for Google Ads representation. The struggles that we were having is what so many people in the industry are seeing is that they're working with a party, an agency, and they have three people on the call. The first one being the account manager. The second one is being the person that does the reporting. And the third one is actually behind the buttons. But nobody in this call is taking responsibility for anything. Also, it's a very passive approach because it's a very fragmented type of responsibility. This is your typical agency. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not what you sign up for. It's kind of like what you get. So the problem that they're saying is like, we need somebody that's proactive, that takes ownership, and that can actually help us scale the Google side of the business. Because right now we're just behind, and they hadn't had representation for a month or so. So the account was in a basically lag on state. So today we're going to talk about the things that we did, how we started, how we get them up to speed, and how we typically use, because we're not touching the ad platform typically until we get the business health completely figured out, the unit economics, etc. So we're going into unit economics today. We're going into the top line revenue model. We're going into the opportunities, and we're going to go into the financials for this particular brand. With me, as always, strategist Rachna. Welcome.
Thank you, Vincent.
And let's dive in for today. I'm going to start off. Let me share my screen here. Whoop. Add to the stage. So here we go. This is basically a growth map. We're not going to start there. We're going to start with the unit economics. Yes. Yeah.
So the MPI sheet has the exact one, the one that we usually start with, basically the calculator. Before everything is like, we've always talked about this, understanding your margins and how healthy a brand is in terms of the finance side. Because if you are not really profitable and then you put a lot of money on top of it, you're actually further, emphasizing that existing issue, and it can hurt your business, right? That is usually what happens with Google, because we all know, like, ROAS. People look at ROAS. Oh, ROAS looks good, but nobody is there to manage Google Ads. So maybe there's more juice that you can squeeze out of it. So we need the right people. And then they get the right people, and then, the right people, they're not really. Then if they just go into the Google Ads and then they pump the budget on branded, pump the budget on YouTube, pump the budget on standard shopping, all this while you just exaggerating your side by showing all of the scale we are doing, growth we are doing, but then all of that impacts on your nCAC and NMR, and then the LTV to CAC ratio does not support to the cost you are putting in at the moment. And so that's where first is understanding your margins, and that's where we did the unit economics. Unit economics is very simple to do. Is just basically look at your average AOV on the new side, you get that, and then you can put in your discount, like how much are you discounting on your new customers, and then you deduct that, and your actual customer price is, let's say, 45, because I'm discounting 25%. All of this, the company has been doing it for a very long time. So you can either get it from Shopify or any other tool that they are using. Then there is always a refund associated with it. Okay, out of these people, 1% get refunded. Shipping income, COGS, merchant processing, fulfillment. In their case, they also had a customer care cost, $1 on every purchase. So we had put that in, and then your contribution margin one comes down to 80%. And that's basically your gross margin, and which is what they also mentioned, that their gross margin is 80%.
Yeah.
And if I look at my overall advertising that I've been doing so far, I have been getting an average NMR of a 0.5 or 0.6, which brings my NCAC to 83. Now my contribution margin 2. Now for those who do not know what is contribution margin 1 and contribution margin 2 and 3 and 4, it's basically your contribution margin 1 is after all of that spend you deduct, cost you deduct, like the part of additional money that you collected from the customer in terms of shipping cost. You can add that and deduct all of your discounts, COGS, any other cost to deliver that product to the customer. You deduct that, you get contribution margin 1. Contribution margin 2 is subtraction of your ad spend to acquire that customer. So in this case, we had to give $83 for a new customer who paid us 45. So we are in a net negative of a 47. So we actually paid $47 more to acquire a customer who paid us 45. From the looks of it, it looks horrible. Like,
Yep.
that does not look good. But here's the real game comes in. Like, if you're a subscription brand and a customer comes in and purchase one product, you're going to come back and subscribe to your products and come purchase again and again and again. And that is where your retention rate is very important. In their case, they had a recharge subscription model, so that data did not match with Shopify. So initial data that we pulled from Shopify did not really match. So it's always good when you do your unit economics on your side, you always verify with the client, because you don't always have the right numbers. Sometimes the client doesn't have all the right numbers. So that's where I think what they told us, Vincent, was that their LTV to CAC is 2.5 blended.
Yes, blended, yes.
And their LTV is $210. And so if I say that, oh, I am spending $83 or let's say $90 max, and I can squeeze $210 out of it, doesn't look so bad now.
No.
So that's, yeah.
And to that point, like the reason, I think if we take a couple steps back, why this is so important, you can already see why this is important, right? If we're just going into our ad platform and optimize, we would optimize for ROAS, right? And the ad platform, first and foremost, is lying to us, because we all know Google and you and Meta are taking credit for the same sales. We don't know whether it's warm traffic, hot traffic, cold traffic, returning, new, it's all blended. We have no idea. So the moment we do this, we can actually start to have a good footprint, a foundational footprint of the company. So we can then take this number into our attribution and platforms to actually start benchmarking things against one another and see, okay, how does the ROAS benchmark to this point? And yeah, you can also see that when these numbers are accurate, and you do want to check this with your client, you don't want to go back and forth like, hey, are we on the point here? Is this what you guys are seeing? Because if not, you still have to adjust it, right? So you want to get it as accurate as possible. The brand should not have these numbers. You should be able to do it. But once you have this set, you're in a really good position, because now you are having much more control. Like with every optimization or every audit that you do, you can do an audit and say, well, this is bad, this is good, this is worse, this is better, but you can never put a frame on it. If you can put a frame on it, like this is the business health, now you can actually optimize much better, because you have the exact numbers that you need to work with. And so here you see, for example, they only start to make money according to the system around month 5, where, before that, they're still making a loss, but with subscription, and again, what we know about them earning in the end, the $90 or $83 is not so expensive because of the quite large margin.
Yeah. So like if we had just not done unit economics and we had taken the word as the client said, like, oh, Google is running YouTube and we want to double down on YouTube, we want to scale, I know it's a lot of potential on YouTube, how can you help us with that? And we just go by the word and we just start launching campaigns. Oh, let's launch $2,000 per day campaign on YouTube, we'll see how it does. Without knowing the back end, like on that MPI sheet, if you open that monthly breakdown of the nCAC, then then you start to get an understanding. No, the MPI sheet.
The
just
MPI
one
sheet.
tab before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, if you look at, like, they are already at 92, and what they told us after we asked them that the break even is at 85. The max we can go to is 90, which they are at 92.5. So if we had gone ahead and it's like, oh, let's do YouTube, and we had started YouTube, and the NCAC would have further pushed them over the edge and
Yeah.
just be not profitable at all.
And you will see, like, there's so many agencies. Like, I see them all the time coming on LinkedIn, coming on Instagram, posting this screenshot of wonderful ROAS screenshot or in platform. Look how we scaled X. But without knowing the back end, you don't know if you scaled something incrementally or just overlap more clicks so that in platform it might look good for you as selling a story, but for the business, they actually lost efficiency and the margins went down. And that's the crucial point that most are not even aware of. And that is actually contributing to all these businesses that see that their ROAS from their Google ads and the Meta agency are all looking great, but the bank account is saying a different story. And to do that, we need to map things out financially, top line revenue, and then go into the ad accounts, because otherwise you won't see the full picture.
Exactly. Like here you see that, majority of the ad spend goes to Meta. And so if tomorrow, if they mess up with their Meta campaigns, it's going to directly affect the top line. And if they're not doing enough top of funnel, they switch the products. For example, let's say 80% of the budget was going to a winner product and 20% was going on a test product. So they were trying to push that product. And if there was any change from 80 to even 70, your Google ads will automatically crash, because majority of that top of funnel was building upon that bestseller, which the ad spend got shifted. But on the other hand, your like whosoever is managing the Google ads account is completely clueless what happened, what tanked. If you're just so fixated on the platform, don't know the whole ecosystem, how everything is combined to each other. Here, look at the ROAS is like 2.53. Why did the ROAS going? What was the reason that it was going down?
The ROAS going down there? What do you mean?
On Google, you see last 3 months.
Oh, on Google.
Yeah.
So you can see here the spend went up massively.
And also they were overspending on branded, right?
They were definitely overspent. That has been a historical flatline thing. So that's not even this case. But they probably, I'm not entirely sure why they spent so much here. But you can see, I mean, you can look at here, 70, 100, 100, 170, 60, 80, 90. So it's not very stable. But what you do know, like, it has to be, if you look at here, you'll see that Meta spends more. So the majority of what's happening here is branded traffic, right? As you scale Meta and as you scale TikTok's pretty stable, but everything is scaling. Branded traffic scales in conjunction. So the majority that we see here is branded. However, the attributed ROAS goes down. That doesn't make sense. You would say, like, but if branded goes up, the ROAS should go up, right? Well, in this case, no. Why? Because they had bidding signals, conversion-based bidding on their branded traffic, which is the equivalent of saying, hey, Google, the people that are ready to buy right now, find the people ready to buy really right now. So you're paying a premium on top of your CPC, you're overpaying, and instead of a ROAS of 33, you get a ROAS of like 4 maybe. So it's not as powerful. And if you add that on the top, and then you have your non-brand equivalents running with it, and you're starting YouTube, now it simply goes down. So that's in a nutshell what you see here. But you have to create these stories towards the data. If we would just look at it in platform, we would have a completely isolated story. The hero's journey is different if we look at it from a financial standpoint, top line, ad platform attribution, or putting everything together, which is what we're doing. Putting all these pieces together to put all the little snapshots and make one whole narrative from it. That's where the money lies. That's where the wasted ad spend is hidden. And that's where, true growth comes from, honestly.
Yeah. One other thing, have you noticed that the month of May and April, the budget actually went up by 300,000. Mostly that happened on Meta.
Yeah.
and TikTok, right?
Yes.
And then you also added spend on Google, which spend aligns, like all of this aligns because my nCAC did not buzz. It was 84, and then next month, it was 84 still.
Exactly.
So that increment, I'm keeping everything because I'm just looking on a lens with only Google. There are other things also that come in play with Meta and TikTok. That the only thing I see in terms of ROAS dropping was only on Google. Meta's was stable, TikTok was stable, but the heavy drop happened on Google.
Yep.
Which tells me that I am in the direction of overspending on Google, and which is what again happened in this last month, which the ROAS further dropped, and then everything else, if you look at the spend on Meta was stable.
Yeah.
They dropped the ad spend on TikTok.
Yeah.
The ROAS was stable, again benchmarking ROAS.
And
But the only thing I feel like, and then, not entirely because of Google, it jumped from 84 to a 92, but there was a part of some spend which was overspent on Google that contributed to the nCAC to also rise. So yeah, that is one.
And again, we're now identifying particular trends, right? So we can see here is where, and it is also the typical thing, because here we are around the 800K mark in total ad spend. Before that, it was 1 million, 1.2. Right now, we're at the highest point they've ever been, 1.3, 1.2 mil per month in ad spend. So as you scale, the laws of scaling typically are, as you scale from different stages, you go into a wider net, your conversion rate goes a little down, so your nCAC typically starts rising, right? So this is also where some brands hit a ceiling because they can't pull the economics off. And then obviously there's also consumer psychology, but that's a whole different topic. But you gotta identify the trends and see, okay, what happens here, and make a benchmark of these numbers. To truly identify, at an 800K, we're still doing 64 to 74 with budgets being on Meta pretty stable. TikTok, not too much difference. But then again, a drop here on Google. Why was that drop there? The drop on Google actually did not contribute to a lower, but actually here to a higher. So this could be something on the platforms, like one of these platforms. Meta was simply lesser efficient benchmark-wise, it seems like. So again, the ideal way of dealing with this is knowing at some point and benchmarking months against and feeling like Meta is the lead with X amount of budget, let's say 60, TikTok is then 30, and then we do 10% max on Google. Could be, but you have to figure out what that formula is. But this is just finding trends in the numbers.
Yeah. Can isolate channels for sure.
Yeah. And so the reason why we're using top line is because it gives us an absolute good view on new customers, because in what months, like for example, here you saw a drop here as well, specifically much like we're now at 37%. So even though we have the highest amount, well, actually here it's the highest amount of spend, but here too, we had a really good new customer ratio. And before that, not so much. So here it was acquiring new customers. Great. Now you can see that this pretty much has been stable. Here they was low. So they definitely changed something that AOV, our AOV and NOV has increased. I think they mentioned also that they were tweaking something to get people more on subscription. So this, not sure if that has something to do with this. But we want to get these top line things in view. And what we're trying to do on Meta here as well, sometimes also get a look at the frequency and reach to see what's happening there. But yeah. Then next is, so the first thing, and I think we can draw this out, we can just talk to this. So the first thing that I would like to do, like we are establishing the business health in combination with platform. We need to get a good picture of what nCAC is allowed, what MR, et cetera, et cetera. What is the difference between returning and new. We get a good idea from that and try to digest it with the numbers, get a good feeling. And as you progress every week and month, you either see how that develops and in what direction. You start to get a feel with the data. That's also why I'm not a fan of automating your reporting, because you get a feel for certain data by filling it in or talking about it every day or every week. But regardless from the business data, what we did first is I go in the platform. And the only reason why I'm going in the platform is to check one thing, and that's their branded traffic campaign, because there's typically so much money wasted. Why? Because you're doing already the heavy lifting on TikTok and Meta and all these other channels. So you're bringing a lot of traffic to Google. People are searching for your brand. A lot of brands are using conversion-based signals on their branded campaigns, which means a premium CPC that you're paying for people that would convert anyway. So what we did is we looked at the campaign, we broke it out into our typical structure, but the most important thing is we changed the bid strategy. And by changing the bid strategy, what happened is that the CPC went from $1.42 on average down to 18 cents. That is an 80% reduction. Now, if the CPC goes down with 80% and the conversion power stays the same, that means that also our CPA goes down with 80%. So instead of $9.32, we're now paying less than $2 for one branded sale. Now, accumulate this all the way throughout the years. The last 30 days, they spent over $1,000 on branded. In the last year, on average, they spent $255K on branded traffic. 100K was hidden inside Performance Max. But if you do the numbers, then it means that the change that we made was a change that we have accelerated within just an hour, and in 2 days, we already saw the results. We saved them by doing this tweak between 191K and 310K a year in wasted ad spend on platform. Now, can you imagine what that does to your nCAC? That is per month about 30K that is just gone, that is now opened up new ways of scaling. It just lowers your nCAC. You can now get new customers for it. You can reinvest that money into different lanes. That's the first thing we always do. And from there, we go into our roadmap, I guess, right?
Yeah. So in that roadmap, I actually put a screenshot of the forecast and how big a business this big, they always have a forecast. And these forecasts are based off the data they already have from the industry. They have been into this industry for years. They understand it much, much better than we do. And that's why, having your strategy aligned with that forecast sometimes is useful, and sometimes it actually can backfire, because if the forecasting is not done right, it can hurt you. But we all obviously talk about it here. If you look at a few figures, just 1 second. Can you zoom in? Just not with even my glasses, I can't see.
Is this good enough?
Yeah. Okay. So here, if you look at there was a drop in the efficiency in the month of June, which they were already expecting. And if we had not known about this, that they are already not getting to the target that they should be, then we would have further, we've already spoken about it. So we put a hold on such strategy where scale is prioritized. Scale would be prioritized in a situation where they're overachieving on the targets, and then we want to double down on it ASAP, because the good times for a business never last long. And if you are in that situation, you should completely get on it immediately. But in this situation, if you see July to August, there is an expectation of 20% improvement in seasonality, or that's where your NMR target is also getting improved from a 0.81 to 0.89. That's a positive signal. With that positive signal, you would be able to launch campaigns, test new campaigns, have them work for you. And as you go in the month of September, it goes down again. And if in the month of September, I'm trying to push up YouTube campaign, that probably will not help me as much. So that's where I, adjust my strategy on Google, or I know that is what they're also looking at on their side, and they'll be doing it on Meta side, TikTok side, Amazon side, everywhere. So I align myself with that. And then which picks up in October, November, and December. So that's the wave that I want to align my Google Ads strategy also. That is where I'm glad that this client actually shared this. So which was very helpful. Usually otherwise we look into Shopify, look at past trends, and then do our projections.
Yeah.
But yeah, from there we get into the approach of like, okay, phase 1, phase 2, and like how we going to do all of that.
Exactly. And so here you basically build out, okay, what we do is we clean up first, because it makes no sense to scale something on a leaky bucket. We've done personally more than 15 years inside of the Google Ads interface. Again, like we sniff out wasted ad spend as one of our talents. We've seen 2,500 ad accounts, spent more than 100 million. You know where to find it. But we also know now there's not only wasted ad spend in the channel itself. Once you understand business data and how it relies, you can also find wasted ad spend between the channels, right? Because with attribution being modeled to a certain degree, it is so hard nowadays to understand where do I put more money? How should I put the most money in Meta, but how much should I then actually put in Google, and how much of that is incremental and whatnot? There's so much money wasted. You don't need an MMM software for this. You just need a couple sheets like this, find trends, benchmark, and you kind of can know what you want to be looking for. As long as your unit economics and everything are correct, you make the right decisions. So that's where you go out, and then you go in through your phases, like what do we need to change on the platform, in the platform, how we're going to do it, like we're going to eliminate waste, we're going to launch product growth campaigns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a bit about the phases that we're going through, and this is obviously custom to the clients.
Yeah, it's always good to do a planned transition aligned with top line, which I see like we've seen that like 90% of the people who manage Google Ads, they're just like looking at the platform, oh, this is not done right, and then skip all of the other things. And most of the time with Google, you're actually hurting the top line. Rather than fixing it, because if it's bottom of the funnel for these guys, we have clearly established it's bottom of the funnel, because majority of the spend goes to Meta.
Yeah.
And as a bottom of the funnel, you can't have like, oh, I'll build my own funnel because I am the queen. Like
and the caveat here is, if you're spending roughly $1 million on Meta, or 800K to $1 million Meta, and Google is 10% of that, we just know how much of that is brand. And the only way to escape out of it is if you can make YouTube work. YouTube can be similar to what Meta does, but it has to make sense economically. If you haven't run your fully scale out on Meta, and YouTube is bringing a way higher CAC, then obviously you first want to try to maximize Meta. At some point of scale, you have to move to YouTube. So it depends on the sequence of things and the unit economics, but that's where it's at. But we also recommend typically advertorials, listicles, and us versus them comparison pages at different parts of the funnel for people to convert quicker. You can use them also in combination with YouTube. However, search campaigns on non-brand, for example, is just a minor piece of the ball. Yes, you can focus on it, but is you're spending 800K on Meta, it's only going to lift this much, and we're trying to lift a much bigger, larger portion in conjunction. And that's why that's important.
That's what we noticed. Like the best thing to do is to identify these segments where you can contribute to top line. So for example, and I love to work for a brand like this, because we were talking about this on our internal sync. Like I went to Gemini and I asked what's the best supplement in the market for this problem, and this brand which onboarded for us, they came up first. And so if your AI chatbot, everybody is vouching for you and you're actually genuinely the best, then it's the marketing is not very difficult.
No.
And so that's where like I looked at GA4, your search console. They have so many blog posts that have been bringing all of these informational intent, top of the funnel traffic through Google, and they have been working. It's we have data, like it works, it organically brings people into the funnel. So we just double down on it. We just pay to Google to get these clicks, the ones that we were missing organically. Things like this is just to, again, what you said, Vincent, like you cannot do a bigger contribution than that, but there are segments that you can identify and double down on it.
Yeah, and it's also being smart with that, because if we take that room again between the business data and the platform data, knowing that an nCAC can be X or Z to do business health, we can take that. Okay, what does that relate to benchmark on the platform, and does it make sense then for us to launch these top of funnel search campaigns that we can then go into our North Beam, our triple whale, and actually look at, how much new visitor percentage do we get from these campaigns? Because that's another thing that rarely anybody seems to be aware of in the agency space. Is like, your performance max. Look at your Google. If you have a Google rep, they will always tell you got to push more performance max. But then when you look in your attribution tool and the performance max new visitor percentage is pretty much equal to your branded traffic, you're like, that's not good. That means it's doing heavily retargeting and going after returning. So this is crucial information at scale, which again implies wasted ad spend because less incrementality. Does not mean we only want to go after new customers. Of course, we have to reserve a piece of budgets for returning customers, but you got to know what to look at. Otherwise, you're simply wasting money, and that's kind of like our expertise: is minimize wasted ad spend in the channel and between the channels. That's where the money's at.
Like for branded campaign, if we've had like new customers and returning customer conversion goals layered, you would know how many of that new and returning customers it's engaging with. So if we can have, it's a test. Everything is a test. Like we could always have a branded campaign run for only new customer acquisition. So we ensure the efficiency on it, and we only spending people who are at the end of their end of their journey of conversion on Google. So you are basically saving that budget. If you have a LTV of 12 months, a customer is always going to come back, engage. Why you gonna continue to spend CPC on that person who would have bought anyway? So like Shopify data tells us that only 30% in a month are new and 70 are returning. So the activity is inflated with the returning users. And that's where, what you did was like excellent. It was just like, if you come in, you can have a brand save $200,000. It's like, what else do you need?
It's not the first time, by the way. We had that so many times.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And that money goes back into, new customers. Just amazing.
And that's the thing where most people, it's really a best practice. And I don't understand that there's agencies and parties out there who are doing the opposite of the best practice. Unless you have some sort of like performance-based deal with a client, but then again, it's your integrity, right? So this is a bit of a side note, but what happens if agencies have a performance deal with the client and they get paid on ad spend? They might do this to inflate the CPC on branded, so they get more paid. But that's not fair. You need to have the integrity. I'm all for performance-based deals because I think it's fair, because otherwise you get misaligned incentives. But you have to have the integrity of knowing to do right by the client and just only scale what needs to be scaled. Branded traffic is typically, it's just happening because of other assets already. And I think that's important.
It's more like you're a doctor and you'll only help people if you're in the hospital. No, like if you're on the side road, see somebody struggling, it's that integrity you need to have. Like we've all been there. And it just sucks. Like sometimes as like 200,000, that's a huge amount. Like, and it just an oversight, and you're just losing that money. I'm sure if you're spending 1 million, 2 million, for you, it might not be, but it's still a significant amount.
Well, if we are looking here, right? So, this is per month, right? So let's say, what is the average of the last 6 months? They're spending roughly $1 million a month. Okay, let's say that's then 12 million per year. Easy number to work with. 200,000 or 300,000 might not look much from 12 mil, because what is that number? Let me just do it differently. I'm not good at quick maths here. So that is, we're talking about a 2.5% But 12 mil, 2.5%, 300K. I mean, you could buy a house from that. So I think it's pretty fair. But in isolation of the rest of this traffic, it's insane that this is just wasted potential there. And that's what we do. Like, I show them with every engagement with a client, it's all about investment of trust, because everybody, nobody trusts from the beginning. Everybody likes to trust and have a good feeling about you, but proof needs to happen over time. So these are the quick wins that you want to throw over. Like, okay, listen, second day, this is what we did. We reduced it. If we calculate that throughout the rest, this is your savings. Boom. Okay, let's go. Okay, good, amazing, quick win. Let's go. All right. So this is really pacing for success. And now without this massive leaky bucket, we have more room to do our thing. And that's the important part. Then we also have the shopping equivalent, but we cannot show that due to confidential reasons, because there's a lot of blurring that needs to happen otherwise. So we'll leave that out. But in general, when it comes to supplements, it is basically from our analysis of the product titles, it's very basic titles. It doesn't have a whole lot of keywords. You have up to 150 characters in the title, and you want to use it because your title is the number one thing that makes you show up in the auctions and that Google is matching search terms by. So for you to not only talk about your strategic and core keywords in there, but also be aware of what are the problems and the solution that they might type in to expand your auctions for these products is really important, because that is actually where you want to show up at number one on a certain position, because this brand has it covered. So also they typically have upsells or bundles or secondary products. Those are typically forgotten. They're left in the corner, in a dark corner, and you just have to bring them in, give them their own proper product titles. And nowadays as well, with the new questions and answer, the AI attributes are going to be more important. This brand, as you said, is already very well represented in AI mode. By adding these layers for the feed in the AI attribution attributes, it's going to be even more powerful. So yeah, it's kind of like if something runs well, what we're doing is just amplifying that success. If you have a brand that is, dying, it's going to be difficult to turn that around. It's well possible, but it's just like amplifying that launch pad that is currently in motion. And once you have your fundamentals correct, and you have your business data correct, the benchmark, now we can properly scale Google in a certain direction. Correlation with Meta and doing some tricks outside of it with YouTube, and then move over. So I guess we'll use this time slot to do some updates on how things are progressing. And
I can vouch on them. Like they would do really good. For like starting from 100,000 in like last 18 months to $1 million, it's just a great scale. And the only reason why a product is doing this is they're organically anyway really good. The quality is good. The product itself is the best in terms of, and they are also like third party tested, independent lab tested. Like that's a big thing for a supplement. Like most of the products, like I've worked with other supplement brands, are not even tested properly. Like they're hiding things and they struggle all time. Like that's not going to help.
And I think that's
going to be very easy.
Yeah, and I think that's key, right? Because most people are like, supplements, I want to get on Google. Most advice that I gave is like, stay on Meta, don't do Google outside of branded, because supplements on Google, and we're talking just search and shopping, not YouTube, there's so much competition. You need something else that does the selling for you, because nobody will buy from a supplement that shows up on a search and like, oh, I need that one. No, you need more touch point. You need Meta as creative to hit you in different angles with testimonials and the benefits and the whole Andromeda creative system to educate you on that product. Like the marketing doesn't do anything else but selling the eyeballs. Like I want the attention, and the page afterward has to do the selling. That's what you want. So you need both. But at the beginning, Meta should be enough.
Yeah.
I think that's it for today. It's 15:15 at my time. Perfect time to quit this. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you next time on Pivot Point at SKU.
Thank you. Bye-bye.